Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So this is what we're going to go over, inshallah. We're going to go over the definition of zakat. Who needs to give zakat? On what are you supposed to give zakat? And how do you give zakat? And who are you supposed to give zakat to? So these are the main questions about zakat. And then if there are minute details that you need to ask, you can ask me at the ending, inshallah. Any private questions, you can even ask me your private questions privately once I'm done with this session, inshallah, if you don't want to ask in front of people. So let's start off with the definition of zakat. Linguistically, in dictionary, the word zakat means purity. Zakat means barakah, blessings. Zakat means growth, for something to grow. Zakat means praise. Why is zakat called zakat? Because through giving zakat, your money and you yourself become pure from sins. This is one of the virtue of zakat. By giving zakat, Allah gives more blessings in your life. Because of zakat, Allah gives growth in your wealth, and especially in the hereafter, but through thawab. And as well as you become praiseworthy in Allah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you give your zakat. So we're not supposed to avoid zakat. What is the definition in Islamic law? When you pick up a fiqh book, they will define it as تمليك مال مخصوص لفقير مسلم لله تعالى. It is to give a fixed amount of specified wealth to a specified individual Muslim for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. Which Muslim? Faqir. Faqir means poor Muslim. So that's the definition of zakat. To give a fixed amount of wealth to a poor Muslim person for the sake of Allah. The intention must be there. So the main thing over here is to give the ownership of it to the poor individual. Give ownership of it. And we'll talk about that towards the ending. What's the reward of zakat? This is not a lecture about the virtue of zakat, punishments of zakat, but we could just mention one ayat and one hadith that will do the job, inshallah. You all know the importance of zakat. It's a pillar of Islam. Zakat, it's fard, it's mandatory, it's in the Quran. The Quran is filled with zakat. Aqimu salata wa atu zakat. Pray salat and give zakat. Aqimu salah wa atu zakat. All over the Quran. It became fard when the Prophet migrated to Medina in the second year. So it became fard before the fard of Ramadan. First came zakat, then came the fard of Ramadan, and this was the second hijri. Ramadan became fard, fasting in Ramadan, in the second hijri as well. Then comes sadaqatul fitr as well, in the same year. Sadaqatul fitr. That also came because Ramadan came, so sadaqatul fitr came. There's a hadith regarding the importance of zakat. When the Prophet ﷺ was sending out his sahabi, he told them that tell them that Allah has made zakat fard on them. Farada alayhim sadaqat fi amwalihim. Sadaqatan fi amwalihim. Zakat fard on them. Yani on the group of people that he was sending his sahabi to. Tell them this. It should be taken from their rich ones and distributed to the poor ones. So there's a lot of wisdom behind zakat, which we cannot go into. It is to divide the wealth. Make sure that the rich, they give their zakat so that the poor don't continue to suffer. And there's much more wisdoms behind it, but that's a different topic. One warning in the Quran ayat, there's more hadiths about the adhab of not giving zakat. And it's very severe and it's very scary. But I'm just going to quote this one ayat and that's enough because Allah says it Himself. Those who accumulate gold and silver, yani cash, money, wealth, and do not spend it in the way of Allah, yani they do not give zakat, give them the good news. Is rhetorical because this is not good news. Give them the good news of a painful punishment. On the day yani the wealth will be heated up in the fire of Jahannam, then their foreheads, is actually in the Quran, and their sides and their backs shall be branded with it. They shall be branded with this. This is what you had accumulated for yourself. So taste what you have been accumulating. This is the big punishment for not giving zakat. It's very important that we give our zakat and we don't escape giving zakat. Many people like escaping zakat. They look for loopholes. The question is, who needs to give zakat? Muslim, of course. Zakat is not for a kafir, non-Muslim. In an Islamic state, non-Muslims will give different type of taxes. But zakat is specifically for a Muslim to give. Muslim is sane. What does sane mean? He's not insane. He's in his right state of his mind, he's not insane. Adult, yani he's baligh. He's not a minor, a kid. He's baligh. Bulugh happened. So zakat. So if a kid has money, let's say his own money, he's been storing it up Eid days. Or maybe your newborn got gifts. It's equivalent to maybe, let's say, $9,000. And you're putting it in, it's your kid's ownership. And he's not a baligh or she's not a baligh, zakat is not fard. So that money is just there until they become baligh, then they'll give zakat. Is that understood? Then you have owner of nisab. You need to hold and you need to possess a bare minimum amount which is called nisab for you to start giving zakat. What is nisab? We'll explain it. A lunar year passes on nisab. Once you hold the nisab, you have the bare minimum amount of wealth. 1 year passes from that day on. Then after 1 year, zakat becomes necessary on us to give. Fard on us to give. Finally, the money that we have, the wealth that we have, it has to be zakatable. Not everything is zakatable. Like carpets, not zakatable. The house you live in, not zakatable. Clothing, not zakatable. This cup is not zakatable. It's only on items that are zakatable. What are those items? Inshallah, we'll go over that as well. So let's go over zakatable wealth first. What is zakatable? Is everything zakatable? Is every wealth zakatable? The answer is no. Islam did not make every single wealth zakatable. Every money zakat. No. Instead, what is zakatable? Something we call money. Whether it's through paper, whether it's through gold and silver, whether it's in our bank account, whether it's in the form of a paper certificate, and whether it's in the form of digital currency and whatnot. It's gold, silver, cash, coins, money in bank account, trading goods, yani for business, any trading good you have, business stock, yani all the saman and items you have, whether it's food product, whether it's things that are for sale. So anything that is for sale. This phone, would you have to give zakat on it? Is it zakatable according to this? No. When will this become zakatable? If I turn this into selling object, I want to sell this phone, then this will become zakatable. Until then it's not zakatable. My clothing is not zakatable because they don't fall under zakatable wealth. So these materials, only these few materials are zakatable. Trading goods or business are animals and livestock. We're not talking about pets over here. We're not talking about pets. If a person has a cat, you don't give zakat on a cat. But we're talking about, this is a special nisab for owning grazing animals. You guys know grazing animals? You call them livestock. Right? Animals that freely graze. The purpose of those animals is milk and for them to produce more animals. So that's a whole different field which is not applicable to us, so I'm not going to go over that inshallah. The second, final one is agriculture. Yani produce of land. Let's say you have land and you're growing crops, vegetables, fruits and whatnot. So that has separate laws to it. How much zakat do you give of that land, of the produce of the land? On what produce do you give zakat on? So these last two I will not talk about because that's not relevant to us. If anyone has questions, you can ask me about those in private, inshallah. I will talk about gold, silver, what we call money. What we call money. Whether it's fiat money, it's money printed, whether it's gold, silver, whether it's in bank account, whether it's checks. This is what we're going to talk about, inshallah. Now, so non-zakatable items. Sometimes we need to know the non-zakatable. Some examples, but there are multiple examples. Everything but I mentioned in this previous slide. Everything else is non-zakatable. You don't give zakat on it. Jewelry besides gold and silver. But the question is, what about if the jewelry is for business? Do you give zakat on that then? Yes, because it became a trading good. If it's not a trading good, and it's not these assets, zakatable wealth, you don't give zakat on it. So jewelries, different type, besides gold and silver.
Diamonds?
Yeah.
Include, not included in zakat?
Yes, they're not included in zakat. Properties, your house, your second house that you have, but it's not for sale, it's not in the market. Or properties you have given for rent. So you don't give zakat on the property itself. You give zakat on the rent, of course. That's money. So the money that comes from the property, you give zakat on that. But if you're doing house flipping, and your purpose, you purchase a property, and you're going to sell that property, that's the intention right away, then you give zakat on the value of the entire property. Because it's a trading good. And it's a business stock. You understand? So you have to give it on the entire property. That's if your year of zakat came. If you sell it, then obviously you'll just give zakat on whatever money remains. But property purchase for investment purposes, for leasing, renting, so you can derive monthly benefit from it, or yearly benefit from it, you don't give zakat on the value of the property. So if the property is worth $1 million, you don't give zakat on 2.5% of $1 million. You just give zakat on the monthly rent, or the monthly income that comes from that property. So non-zakatable asset, the properties. Household appliances. Household appliances. Yani, you have TV in your house, you have kitchen saman, you have all the different appliances and instruments in your house, you don't give zakat on that. They're not zakatable goods. Electronic appliances, you don't give zakat on that because they're not for sale. If you make them for sale, then they become zakatable assets. You have to include the value of it, part of your money, total income that you have. Cars and vehicles, you don't give zakat on. If you own 10 cars, there's no zakat on them. Right? Because these things don't have the potential of growth. So Sharia did not put zakat on it. However, if you are selling cars, and you have 10 cars, then you have to give zakat on the 10 cars, on the value of them, whatever the qimmat is, you give 2.5% of that. These are some non-zakatable assets. So we'll move on. What is nisab now? Nisab is the minimum amount the Sharia has stipulated for paying zakat. Who gives zakat? Whoever has nisab. Now what is this nisab? Nisab is of gold and silver. Again, I'm not talking about livestock and agriculture. I'm not talking about that because the nisab for that is different. For livestock, you go with animals. Let's say you have five camels, you give 1 goat. You have 10 camels, you give 2 goats. If you have 25 camels, you give so and so and so. But that's a different nisab. I'm not talking about livestock and agriculture. I'm just talking about the money and wealth that we have besides those two. And there's zakatable assets. So you have 2 types of nisab. Silver nisab, gold nisab. Silver nisab is 612.36 grams or equivalent in cash. Gold nisab is 87.46 grams or equivalent in cash. If you have only silver, nowadays we don't have much silver, but back then you had silver and gold, they were very close to each other in price. So they would own a lot of silver also. Nowadays people don't really own silver, we don't want silver. So those who have, if you have only silver, you follow the silver nisab. Once you have this many 612.36 grams of silver, then you give 2.5% of that. Or if you have only gold nisab, let's say the sister only has gold and no other cash or any other money with her besides gold, then she will follow the gold nisab. What is the gold nisab? 87.46 grams of gold or equivalent in cash. What about if you own multiple of nisabs? Yani, you have gold, you have silver, you have cash, you have money in bank account. Then what do? What you do is you mix them together and you follow gold. You look at gold. If you possess mixed assets, gold, silver, cash, you use gold nisab. You go with the gold nisab. That's the standard that we follow, gold nisab. How much is gold nisab right now? I will talk about that in the next slide. So if a person has this much money, gold equivalent to gold nisab, then that means he became a person of nisab. He needs to mark that date. So let's say one of the kids, you have Khaksar, for example, Adam. Adam became baligh. Right now he's not baligh. So in the next couple of years he becomes baligh. Once he became baligh, his father gave him a $10,000 check. Wow, mashallah. And his mom gave him gold. Not to wear, to sell. So it's not haram to sell gold. For men it's haram to wear gold. Mom gave him gold. Now he has $10,000 plus $5,000 of gold. He has to look whether this falls under the gold nisab or not. How much is gold nisab? I did the calculation today. It's equivalent to $8,105. So if he has this much money, Shariat considers him to be a person of nisab. Does Adam have this much money? Yes or no? Yes. He got a $10,000 check from his dad, and he has a $5,000 gold, a value of gold that's with him, qiymat of gold with him. So he has taqriban $15,000. Does it make him equivalent to the gold nisab, which is this much? Yes. Now Adam has to go and mark it Ramadan first. I became owner of the nisab. He has to mark this. Now when 1 year passes on this nisab, it doesn't matter if this money goes up or down, doesn't matter. So long as beginning of the year he has 8,105 or more, and at the end of the year, next Ramadan first, he still has at least $8,105 or more, he has to give 2.5% of whatever he has. That's called nisab. For young kids and youngsters who are going to start working, you need to mark the date you have the nisab with you. Because year passes on that date, you have to give zakat. Many elders or people, they really don't know when they became sahib nisab, possessor of nisab. So what do? You just start counting from Ramadan in that case. If you don't remember when you became owner of nisab, exact date, then you just choose a month and you stick to that, inshallah. So that, for example, if a guy lived 50 years, he didn't know when he was 18, he was not practicing, so he didn't give zakat, he didn't know zakat. He was 20, he didn't give zakat. Now he doesn't even know which day he actually became sahib nisab. He doesn't know this. So what does he do? Let him choose a month, and from now on he needs to stick to that month. Whenever 1 year goes by from that month, he will give zakat, 2.5% of the total assets that he has. Is that understood, guys? Is that clear? If you have questions, I'll explain this further at the ending. So the nisab, the standard nisab we follow is gold. How do you get this? Very easy. What's 1 gram of gold? Very easy now. As you go on websites, they'll tell you it's equivalent to $92.68. You multiply it by 87.48 because the Prophet told us, Sharia told us the gold nisab is 87.46 grams. So when you multiply that, it equals 8,105.79 cents. So if a person possesses this much money, when 1 year goes on this much money, and that year he still has minimum this much money, he has to give 2.5%. Irrespective of if now he has 1 million, he has 200,000, but the point is he has at least this much money when that date comes again. So beginning he had it, and the last date he has it. He has to give 2.5% of it. Is that understood? We got this? So many of us, we don't know, if we don't know our first date, we just stick to Ramadan. People usually stick to Ramadan if they don't know, because they don't know, inshallah, we hope Allah forgives them. And also because Ramadan, the sawab is doubled. And sawab is more in the month of Ramadan, of actions. So this is some rules about calculating nisab. I already explained this, let's just read through it. The day you own the nisab amount, let's say it was, you gotta go with the Islamic calendar, not the Gregorian calendar, not January, February, March, April, not this. You have to go Muharram and the Islamic months. Why? Because Islamic months are usually 13 days, 12 to 15 days less. The year is that much less compared to the other calendar. So the zakat will become wajib according to the Islamic calendar. It makes no difference whether the wealth increases or decreases during the year. Once a lunar year passes on the nisab, you are a possessor of nisab, and zakat is fard on you. So after when 1 year is complete, you still have the nisab at the end of the year. You had it at the beginning of the end of year, you have to give zakat. Now, the question is, when does this process break? When will you not have nisab? It's very simple. When 1 year passes, you have wealth equaling less than nisab at the end of the year. So let's say you had so much loss in your business. You went from your $1 million, $2 million, right? And then when, for example, Ramadan first came, your 1 year of zakat, your zakat due date came. Your money right now, whatever you have with you, the total assets of what you have with you is equivalent to $5,000. Now what happened? You're not sahib nisab anymore. Do you have to give zakat? No, you don't have to give zakat anymore. So this is the bare minimum. If you have, you give zakat. Another way is a person lost all of it. So let's say that date came and you went on a next level debt. That debt is more than the nisab itself. So even though you have $200,000, but your debt is 1 million, that means you're in minus. So you have to give zakat now? You have no money on you. You don't give zakat anymore because you lost all of your wealth at the last day when your zakat due date came. This is the nisab. Question comes, can we deduct debts? Yani, we have bills, we have mortgages. There's a long-term debt. How many years? 30 years, 35 years, 80 years? So if you're deducted, we don't have to give zakat. You have to minus a lot of money. Question is, what about debts that we owe short-term, car payments? You understand? What about if we owe other people money? I owe, not that they owe me, I owe them debts. These are called debts, liabilities. Short-term, and you have long-term. Short-term liabilities which need to be paid within 1 year. If you have debts that you need to pay within 1 year, that's called short-term. If it's long-term, it means it stretches beyond a year, multiple of years. So let's say you gave, mortgages is a prime example of this mortgage. This is a long-term loan. It's a long-term debt. And then short-term is, for example, let's say you gave your friend $3,000, or you borrowed from your friend $3,000, and he told you in 5 months you need to pay me back, and you signed the contract, or you gave him the word. Islamically, word counts, but legally, obviously, you signed the contract. Now that is called short-term debt. The question is, can you subtract this? The answer is you can subtract debts. You can subtract debts from your total wealth. So let's say you have $50,000, and the short-term debts that you have are $10,000. You can subtract 10,000 from 50 and give zakat from $40,000. You can. But what can you subtract? Short terms, you can subtract all of them. Short-term debts. When it comes to long-term, you can only subtract up to 12 months. The fuqaha have allowed 12 months. So your mortgages, you can subtract up to 12 months. You understand? Car payments, you can subtract up to 12 months. And etc. If you owe a person, he told you pay him back in 5 years. Now you can subtract, that's a long term, so you can subtract for 12 months only. Is that understood? So you have short term, and then you have long term. Let's just read this. Short term liabilities which need to be paid within 1 year. The total amount of short term liability will always be deducted when calculating one's zakatable assets. Long term spans over a number of years. The amount one needs to pay in the course of 1 year will be subtracted for one's. If you need to pay it within 1 year, then you will subtract that. So for example, if you took a loan from your friend, and your friend gave you the duration of 5 years, and he is not bothering you, and he's not bothering you in year 2, he's going to bother you in that 5th year. He wants it then you don't deduct that loan. You will only deduct it that 5th year when it comes, not the years before, because it's not demanded. He's not demanding it. Let's move on. Another question. One is loan that you need to pay. One is loan that you give out. You guys understand the difference? One is loan that you took, you borrowed money. One is you give money to someone, you lend money to someone to borrow. Lend money to someone, you give out a loan. So many times we forget that still your wealth is due, is going to come. So you have to calculate that and include that part of his zakatable assets. Example, for example, your son or your friend, your partner comes to you and says, listen, I need to do business, please give me $50,000. So you give him $50,000. And then next month, is the month where you have to give zakat. Next month is the month you have to give zakat. So now you cannot subtract that $50,000 because it's not a loan that you took, it's a loan that you gave. Loan that you give, you have to give zakat on that. You have to include it part of your total assets. So let's say you have $100,000. You had $100,000. So you have to look, $100,000, $50,000 you gave to your friend as a loan, regardless of when he pays it back, but he will pay back, whether it's 5 months later, whether it's 2 years later. You have to take that $50,000 and also include it part of your total assets. You cannot subtract that. You have to include that within your zakat. What can you subtract is debts that you took, that you need to pay back. That is what you can subtract, and we talked about that in the previous slide. So yes, it must be included in your zakat. However, there's scenarios to this. What about he gives money to someone, $100,000, and then he disappears? So you have no hope of getting your money back. Or he denies it. Or there's no proof for it. You cannot take him to court for it. Because if you can take him to court, you still have to include it, because the judge will pass a ruling in your favor, you still have to include it. But if you take him to court, if you can't take him to court, he's denying it, he's not going to pay back, there's no proof of it, then what happens? You don't have to give zakat on it anymore. Is that understood? So you don't have to give zakat on it in that case. So let's read this now. However, if a creditor is unable to pay from his debtor despite his acknowledgement, it is not liable to zakat. If he's unable to pay, he says, I can't pay at all. He becomes a full miskin, and you know he won't be able to pay you back the way how he is. Sometimes like that, you give a loan to someone back home, for example, and you know they will never pay. How are they going to pay you $50,000 if they're back home? They need more money. They're always poor. They're asking for zakat money. You understand? So sometimes we have these cases. Then you don't need to include that in your total assets. If the debtor denies the existence of the debt and it also cannot be established, then it is not subject to zakat anymore. That's about loans that you have given out. Business stock, I talked about this before. Whatever commodities you have, whatever goods that you have, and whatever that is you have made in the process, you have purchased and you're going to sell, you have to include all of that, and you have to give zakat on all of that. Commodities refer to those items purchased with the intention of resale. Zakat is compulsory on one's business stock. Zakat will be calculated according to the retail price of the goods. Zakat is not compulsory on real estate purchased with intention to lease out. We talked about this previously as well. So I'm just giving you some more details on business. Finished items. You have to give zakat on the amount that you're going to sell it for. Finished items. So you give zakat on the amounts that you sell it for. So you include that part of your zakatable assets. And whatever portion that belongs to you in a business, you give only of that portion. So let's say if it's 33%, you'll give 33%. Of whatever merchandise you have, it's for sale. Whatever merchandise you have, you get the total value of it. Once you get the value of it, let's say it's equivalent to $80,000 of goods that you have. And your partner is 50, and you're 50% in the business. You give 50%, you give 2.5% of 50% of that wealth. So if it's $100,000, you have to give 2.5% of $50,000. You don't give zakat on the entire merchandise, even though it doesn't belong to you. You just give it of your share. What is the rate of zakat? We're coming to an end soon. 2.5%. When it comes to monies, you give 2.5%. When it comes to other two things that I'm not discussing, the nisab and the amount is different. That's a different field. But over here, when it comes to gold and silver and monies, whether it's paper money, it's in your bank account, digital money, whatever it is, you have to give 2.5% of it. So how do you do so? Total wealth. Subtract the short-term debts and the debts, the long-term. From the long-term debts that you need to pay on a monthly basis, you ask for it. You subtract 12 months of that as well, and then you give 2.5% of the total. Now, before we go to recipients, let's take an example. Example is as follows. You have Yunus Khan, for example. He's Khan. Khan means rich. MashaAllah. He has $200,000 saved up in his bank account. He has $100,000 in cash. Wow, MashaAllah. He has this in his cash also. But at the same time, he has taken a $100,000 loan, for example. He has taken a loan from someone. So all together, how much wealth does he have? How much do you have? $200,000 where? Bank account. $100,000 where? Cash. He has $300,000 total wealth. Alright? He has this much. And then he has taken a loan of another $100,000, and his 1 year of zakat came. So what does he need to do? How much zakat on? How much money does he need to give zakat on? $200,000. Yes, and then what you do is $200,000, and you do 2.5% of $200,000. That's how much you will give, inshallah. 2.5% of $200,000 he'll give. That's one example, which is equivalent to, you guys are saying 5,000. We'll give 5,000 in zakat, inshallah. 2.5% of 200k, 5,000. That's what's equivalent to 5,000. So you will give 5,000 in zakat. That's how it's done. If you have businesses, you have to look at your businesses as well. Whatever trading good that you have to include that as part of your total asset. So let's say he has a business also, and his business is to sell phones. He has a phone business, and the total goods that he has is equivalent to $50,000. It's equivalent to $50,000. So now he has to take that $300,000 and add that $50,000 to it and give 2.5% of that. Is that understood? So this is how zakat is given. Let's say he has given a loan to his friend Qasim. He has given Yunus Khan, he's very rich, he has money. He has given $100,000 to his friend Qasim Patel. So he's given him some money. Now Qasim Patel has $350,000, we decided, right? He has $300,000, 100 was in bank, $200,000 was in cash. But from that we subtracted 100,000 because he took a loan. So he had 200,000. But then we found out that he also has given out a loan. He has given out a loan to his friend. But that's actually his money. So what he needs to do is he has to include that 100,000 with his total assets. So how much does he give zakat on? $300,000, not 200,000. So this is how you give zakat. You have to make sure you have everything in front of you present. Here are the recipients of zakat. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ. Zakat is for the fuqara and the masakin, the poor individuals. That's number one. عَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا الْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ فِي الرِّقَابِ غَارِمِينَ and فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ and Ibn al-Sabil. These are the recipients of zakat. Who are these names? Here is the details. Here is the details. Poor and needy. Poor and needy are those people who don't have any nisab of the zakatable assets. They don't have any nisab from the zakatable assets. So they don't have any nisab. That's a poor individual. On top of that, he doesn't have any money. It doesn't need to be zakatable now. It doesn't need to be zakatable anymore. He doesn't have any money that is equivalent to the gold nisab. Then that he's poor, you can give him zakat. He's poor, you can give him zakat. Let me make a big difference here. Listen to my words once again. Remember zakatable assets? We did that already, right? Gold, silver, cash, and whatnot. Let's say he has none of that equivalent to the gold nisab. Okay? On top of that, he shouldn't have any non-zakatable items which is equivalent to the gold nisab. What does that mean? Let's say he has a PlayStation. Let's say he has 3 TVs in the house, he owns them. He has an Xbox on top of that. He has, for example, another good that beyond his basic needs. He has many of these other materials that are not zakatable. If that is equivalent to $8,000 also, gold nisab, then you don't give him zakat money. He's not eligible for zakat. It has to be a person who's poor, who has below, all of his wealth is equivalent to less than gold nisab. Let's put it like that. His wealth is equivalent to less than gold nisab. That's the poor and needy. Fi sabilillah, they are mujahidun that are poor, or hajis that are poor. Fi sabilillah is not tablighi brothers. They're in the path of Allah, so you can give them zakat. Fi sabilillah is not a person in the path of knowledge. He's rich, mashallah? No. Fi sabilillah is only talking about mujahideen, in the path of Allah fighting, because that's what the word fi sabilillah means when it's used in this text. That's what it means, mujahideen, or some say even hujjaj, that's what I quote. But they have to be poor. If the mujahid is rich, because usually they're poor, but if they're rich, he's a mashallah multi-millionaire, and he's still he's a mujahid, then you don't give him zakat. He's not eligible to take zakat, your zakat money. So fi sabilillah, mujahid and hujjaj, with the condition that they are miskeen and faqir. Debtors, those who have so much debt on them that they don't have nisab anymore. They might have valuable goods under them. They might have, let's say they have properties, right? They're just standing there. They might have multiple of cars. They might even have a business going on, but their debt is much more than the nisab that they have. Their debt is much more than the nisab that they have. Those people, you can give them zakat money because they're actually in need. So let's say you owe someone $1 million and they're after you for this $1 million. I'm not talking about long term, I'm talking about you own them, they're after you for this $1 million. And even though you have $200,000 saved up in cash, you're still zakat eligible. Someone can take their zakat money and give it to you because technically in reality you're in need. If that person goes after you, he can take all of your money. If he goes to the Islamic State court, or if he can come after you. If he did a legal contract, the law will come after you. They will take your property and they will sell your property just to pay off his debt, pay off the money he gave you. So technically he doesn't have any money with him. Even though physically he might have money, but he owes so much money, which is much more than the money that he has, that person is eligible for zakat as well. Travelers, this is very hard. It's not applicable nowadays. Back then it's possible. Imagine you're rich. You travel from, let's say, Baghdad to another place, or from Mecca to Jerusalem, for example, you're going there. So it takes you months. And you ran out of all of your money. And you don't have your credit card. Back then there was no credit card. You don't have no banks. You cannot borrow from someone. You don't have your money accessible. So you're a traveler, but you don't have your money accessible. You can take zakat in that situation because at that given time you're poor. But this is not applicable nowadays because of credit cards and because of how easy it is for us to have our control over our money, or have possession of our money, or our money is accessible to us. Mu'allafatul qulub doesn't exist anymore. This was only at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and after that all the Sahabas, they said that this was only specific to Rasulullah's time sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is mu'allafa qulub? They were non-Muslims or Muslims, weak Muslims, whose hearts needed to be reconciled towards Islam, to draw them close to Islam, or to save yourself from their fitna. You guys understand? To save yourself from their rebellion. So the Prophet would take zakat money and give it to that non-Muslim tribe, or give it to these new Muslims who just accepted Islam. This was when the Islamic State was being built. Once Islam fortified, the Prophet passed away, the Sahaba ended this doesn't exist anymore. So you can't give zakat money to a new Muslim, or you can't give zakat money to this guy who has doubts in his faith, just so that you can make him more closer to Islam. This doesn't exist anymore. So don't even think about it. Because or else all of us want zakat money then. Like, my iman is kamzor, I want to have stronger iman. Give me some money, I come to Salatul Fajr, I come for everything, inshallah. So everyone will abuse this. Finally, we have zakat collectors. They don't exist anymore. Zakat collectors don't exist anymore. They were officials of government, imam, or the government will appoint them to go out and collect zakat from people. So like they would go to this land, whatever the produce was, they would calculate and take it. You can't just stop them because they have authority, right? Because the job of Islamic government is to also collect zakat. And if they don't want to collect it, they can leave zakat to you. That's what nowadays Muslim countries are doing. They don't want to take the responsibility of collecting zakat, which is actually good. Well, sometimes corruption happens. But besides that, Islamic State, Abu Bakr time, Umar time, they would come tax collectors, they would take the zakat. Or zakat of only livestock and produce of land, this only. They wouldn't touch your gold, silver, because that's something they can never find out how much cash you have, or how much gold you're hiding there. That's just between you and Allah, you have to give it on your own. So zakat collectors, these zakat collectors, even though this is the unique part, even though they are rich, they can get paid from the zakat funds. They can get paid from the zakat funds. So these are the seven places where you can give your zakat. What's the main condition here? They are poor. On every single condition, look, poor and needy, fi sabilillah, debtors, travelers. In all of them, they need to be poor. That's number one. Only in zakat collectors, which don't exist anymore. Even if they're rich, they can still take from zakat funds. The Imam al-Muslimin will give them their salary from the zakat funds. Another thing about, and I'll end off with two final points, and then we'll open it up to Q&A inshallah. Two final points. You cannot give zakat to the means that you came from, yani your parents and your grandparents and so forth. You cannot give zakat to them, even though they're poor. Nor can you give zakat to your kids. But you can give zakat to your siblings and friends and people that are poor around you, your family members. Is that understood? So they're not recipients, even though they're poor. Your father is not a recipient of zakat, even though as poor as he may be. Because Islamically, you have to support him without zakat. Because that's fard on you. Especially your mom, grandfather, etc. Your kids, you can't give them zakat. But brothers, siblings, uncles, family, friends, if they're poor, you give them zakat, it's double the sawab. Because they're your family at the end of the day. Second thing in zakat is, when you're giving zakat, make sure, we did the definition. What was the definition of zakat? We had the word tamlik. Tamlik means you make the poor person owner of your zakat. You make the poor person owner of your zakat. So you don't take zakat and spend it on a road and say this is for the poor person, so let me spend the zakat money in his benefit. You can't do it. Your zakat is not accepted. You have to give that poor person the zakat, and then if he allows you to spend it to build a road next to his house, then you can do that. You guys understand? You can't be like, you know what, there's a lot of poor people in this community, let me go build a hospital instead of me giving them my zakat money to them. Let me go give it to a hospital, because the hospital will be in benefit, free hospital for them. You can't do that. You have to take zakat money, and you have to make the poor person owner of your zakat money, then your zakat is accepted. Or else your zakat will not be accepted. That will be considered sadaqah, charity. It will not be zakat. Is that point clear to everyone? Is that clear? Okay. وبقدر هذا نكتفي. With this much amount, I will stop. There's much more details, but I tried summarizing it with as much as I can. I think we've been going on for 40 minutes, and I try summarizing as much as I can. Now we'll open up to Q&A. If people have questions, yes.
It has to be in the form of cash, or you could give goods as well.
You can give goods, so long as you give the right value. So let's say you want to give 1,000, you can give it in food also, so long as they become owner of it. Yes.
So there's two nisab, right? So one is gold and one is silver, right? So which one do we follow? Do we just follow the gold one?
A very good question. If you've seen, I have done a little bit different. I've said gold nisab. Majority of in Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, in these places, if you ask the fuqaha, jurists, they will, even here, they will state the classical, you follow silver nisab, which is around $633. Because silver, 1 gram of silver is $1 and I think 3 cents right now. So what was the nisab of silver? 612.36 grams. So you're looking at $630, taqreeban, $633. So that means any person in America possesses that much money, then they become sahib nisab. That means you guys as students, or this, like a kid in high school who became baligh, they fought, in each time they make $700. There's sahib nisab. Now after 1 year they have $800, they have to give zakat 2.5%. No, they don't. Islamically, we had an option of choosing gold nisab or silver nisab as the set standard for nisab. The scholars preferred silver because this benefits the poor people. But that is applicable in Pakistan and other countries. A group of jurists, American Fiqh Academy, they got together, they did research. They said that because the silver price has dropped so low, that almost, if you choose silver, almost every kid that becomes baligh in school, he has no money, so his father gives him $600, he'll become a sahib nisab in 1 year, and he has to give udhiyah then. He'll have to give sadaqatul fitr on his own. He'll have to sacrifice an animal. Where's he going to get all this money from? So it's better here in America that we take the nisab of gold. Because over here money is a lot. Even kids own $600. But no one owns $8,000. You understand what I'm saying? So fuqaha right now, especially the khusus American Fiqh Academy, they did research. They're saying that the standard nisab to follow right now is of gold. So 87 grams of gold. What was the amount I told you guys? 87.48 for 8 grams. Equivalency of that in value in cash, which is equivalent to right now $8,000, $8,200, right? I put it for you. I checked it today. Let's go. Right here. It's equivalent to $8,105.79. So this is the gold nisab will follow. Does that answer your question? So if someone tells you follow the silver nisab, be like, no brother, I'll stick with the gold nisab. This is what my masjid is following, or the Mufti told me in the masjid. An American Fiqh Academy, which is a group of our ulama, a huge council of ulama, American-born ulama. They have studied, became fuqaha. So this is the fatwa they have given, and it's a very beneficial fatwa. Yes?
When you give zakat to poor and needy people, do you just give one person or you give more than one?
A very good question. The brother asked, if you give zakat to a needy person, do you give to one needy, or you have to give multiple of needy people? The answer is, it's up to you. In Hanafi fiqh, it's up to you. In the Shafi'i fiqh, there's a difference. I don't know if there's anyone that's Shafi'i here. Brother Mujahid is Shafi'i, but I think he left. Because he always tells me to talk about Shafi'i fiqh, but he's not here, I'm not going to talk about Shafi'i fiqh. If he was here, I would have talked about Shafi'i fiqh. But the answer is, you can give it to anyone. Allah doesn't say you have to give it to every category or 5 poor people. No, you can give it to one person or you can distribute it. Distribution will be better because it will reach more people. But it's not an obligation. Does that answer your question? Yes. 1 second. Keep in mind, our fuqaha have stated that to give all of your money, let us say you have to give $20,000 in zakat to one person overseas or someone, this will be slightly disliked. It's not sinful, it's not bad, it's slightly because now you've made him beyond rich. You understand? Now he'll become beyond rich. Matter of fact, if he keeps that money, next year he'll give zakat on the money also. If he sent 20,000 in Pakistan, for example, he will save that money, next year he'll give zakat on the money also. You see what I'm saying? So you give an amount that they need and a little bit more so that they can survive for a couple of months. But it's your choice at the end of the day. Yes?
Earlier you mentioned that you have to pay zakat on business stock that you might own or equity in a business. What if it's stocks that are vested over time? So you don't necessarily own them today, but in a calendar year time, then you will be granted that equity.
So it's not in your ownership right now.
But it's still
We'll come to that. Ask me right after him. If anything, let me tell you the principle. Anything that is within your ownership, yani you have it with you. It's within your ownership. You have to include that within your zakatable assets. If it's business, the items that you have and they're not with you currently, they're not for sale, or you don't have them with you, so you don't include them. But if you have business and you have all the items with you, or suppose you're going to get before that due date, like your due date of zakat, you're going to get them, then you have to include them as well. You asked about, one brother asked about 401k. I was going to make more slides, but I ran out of time, so I just sufficed here. 401k. This is the favorite mas'ala. Are you guys ready for the answer? 401k. The answer is yes. You guys said yes, so I'm saying yes also. Anyone who has 401k, he has to give zakat on 401k. How much amount? Whatever amount that belongs to him. Whatever amount that belongs to him, because sometimes the company will invest money, but it will be there, but it's not given to his ownership yet. You understand? The boss will be investing, it depends on what type of, however deal you have, you guys know the details better. But whatever money is your ownership, you have to give zakat on that as well, on a yearly basis. You have to include it because it's your money. You have hand on it. It's your money. Some people say you don't have to give zakat on it, and they compare it to a malud dimar. Malud dimar is that money which you don't hope to attain. You don't hope to attain. So they say 401k is money you don't hope to attain. I don't see the equivalency. Because malud dimar, money that you don't hope to attain, the fuqaha have given this example. Let's say you buried your money. Let's say it was maybe 500 gold coins. You buried it in somewhere and you forgot where you buried it. That is malud dimar because you have no hope of getting it. 401k, you have a hope. You got to pay penalty though, yeah. You have to pay a lot of, but that's your choice. You chose it. That's like I go into debt. I go into debt. I chose it. So now why would I suffer and leave my other obligation because of the debt? For example, I chose it. I chose to enter it. So it's my ownership. So 401k, you do give zakat. End of story. Unless you want to follow a different imam and do fatwa shafing, or unless someone else convinces you otherwise not, reputable scholar, not just any Tom, Dick and Harry who does a Google search, YouTube video, then that's up to you. Yes?
How about similarly the retirement fund investment?
Same thing would be for money in retirement. Same thing. You'll have to include it within your zakat.
I have a little different one. How about the health saving account where you invest the money but you do not invest anything, or sorry, you do not use the money other than your medical only? So if you take it out, there's definitely a penalty.
It's still your money. It's like, okay, what about this question to you guys? I want you guys to answer. What about I make a Hajj account and I save money?
This is the open money.
Yeah, that's.
But the money I'm talking about is specifically for the medical use.
It still belongs to you. Whatever it is, it belongs to you. Unless you have purchased medical goods and is there for you, then it becomes your part of your basic needs. Like you have Tylenol at home, so you don't give zakat on that. But if it's money there and then it's being used, but whatever money you have, you give zakat on that. So I'm just telling you guys principles. As some of these stuff you're asking, I don't know the exact fine details of it, but I'm just giving you the principles. If it's your money, you give zakat on it. Doesn't matter if you're going to pay tax on it. Doesn't matter if you're going to give penalties on it. It's your money. Okay, what if I open up zakat, for example, bank account, and I tell the government, listen, I'm going to deposit money, but this is for my kid's wedding, and this is for me to go for Hajj, and my family to go for Hajj. But if I withdraw from this, make sure you charge me 60% so I don't withdraw for it. Do I have to give zakat on it? Kyun? Why? That's my question, why? It's my money. But what about the question that I have to pay penalties on it? Well, I chose the penalty, so what? It's not imposed on me. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why you have to give zakat on it. Yes.
You said the person who could.
Oh, who said it? Oh, it was you?
Yes.
Okay. I was looking at him, I thought he was speaking. Sorry. Yes, brother.
No. So, like you said, the person who is eligible for the card, if they have a home, still they are eligible, but they don't have other stuff besides home.
No, they're not. No. If this is what I said, if a person owns properties, not for business, not for rent, he owns multiple cars, beyond his basic, one car's basic need. A person can perhaps, now it comes to my mind, say that the place that he lives in is basic need. But besides that, let's say he has other properties or he has other goods that he doesn't need. Maybe he has a second car, maybe he has 10 phones in his house. He doesn't sell them, he doesn't need them. If that is equivalent to nisab, he's not zakat eligible. So we have to be careful. Let me give you an example to make it very clear. You have a kid, okay, he became baligh, can you give him zakat? You can give him zakat, he has no money. However, you have to be careful. If he has so much money, so much goods, for example, different shoes that he doesn't need, he has games, TVs, he has all of these different iPads and whatnot, it's equivalent to zakat, you don't give zakat, he's not zakat eligible. Is that understood? If a person has nothing, he can ask for zakat. Another masala came to my mind right now. I didn't write this, but listen carefully. A person who has wealth, even though it's not zakatable wealth, like let's say he has extra phones, it's not zakatable. It's equivalent to, he has this much. That person, he cannot ask for zakat, even though it's less than the nisab. He can be given zakat, but it's not jais for him to beg for zakat. Are you guys understand the difference? Listen, a guy has, mashallah, he has a house, he's living. He might be zakat eligible, he doesn't have anything equivalent to a gold nisab. Right? He might have a phone and whatnot, fine, no problem. It's still not equivalent to gold nisab. So he doesn't have to give zakat. He can take zakat, but it's not jais for him to beg for zakat. This is most enough for you guys, for the recipients, poor people, or people that are below nisab. So the kid cannot beg for zakat. If they have all of this, he can't beg for zakat. Who can beg for zakat? If they don't even have the basic need of one day, then they can beg for zakat. This is what the fuqaha have stated. You understand? So even begging to get zakat money, a beggar can do that only if he doesn't have the basic need of that day only, then he can beg. But if he has the basic need of that day for him and his family, he cannot go out in the streets and start begging everyone for zakat. Is that understood? But can he take zakat? Let's say you identify him. You can give him zakat. Let's say you know your brother in Pakistan or Afghanistan, he's in need of zakat. Sometimes they won't even ask. That's fine. You can give him zakat money, but it wouldn't be right for him to ask for it. Sometimes when people do ask, you don't have to further scrutinize them. Or do you really need it? That's not your job. If they're asking, that's between them and Allah. You can give it to them so long as you know that they're poor, inshallah. Take it? Another masala that came to my mind. Can you give zakat to someone knowing, of course, you have to make sure he's zakat eligible, he's poor. What about if he feels shy when you give him zakat, he'll deny. Can you give him zakat without telling him his zakat money? Yes, you can. Take it? Because your job is to give zakat. His job is whatever he gets hold of. If he's eligible, it doesn't matter, you don't have to tell him the zakat funds. Is that clear? So let's say your uncle is in next level need, but he's shy and he has this ghairat of not asking, which is the right thing to do. You're not supposed to ask. You understand? He has enough food for the day, but he's still zakat eligible. Because he has rents coming up, bills coming up, family, whatever. You can give him zakat, and you don't have to, you can't even tell him that this is zakat. You don't need to tell him it's zakat. You just give, here, this is a gift from my side, just give it to him. You can do that as well. This is allowed. Do not give zakat, another masala. Do not give zakat to organizations that abuse zakat. You have to make sure any organization you give zakat to, they use the zakat properly. Some organization use zakat, okay, and they will build a hospital with it. That's their policy. Your zakat never got accepted. So you have to be careful. The organizations, the middlemen that you use, wakils, you call them the wakils, the representatives on your behalf, make sure they actually, like if you give it to a mashid gives it to the poor. You trust them, alhamdulillah. But there's some organizations out there, they will spend your zakat to build a bridge for the poor people, to build a well for the poor people. You can't do that. That's it. One more question? One final question, inshallah.
So, I'm putting my case, like I buy meat in a wholesale and sell to the stores all year. But I keep a small stock just for emergencies. And that stock sometimes 10 boxes, sometimes 20 boxes, sometimes 5 boxes. Do I have to put the
Yes.
of that and on how many? On what day?
No, whenever the brother asks if he has this food or meat, whatever the boxes that he has that he's going to sell, whatever you have on the day your zakat day comes, you have to give the value of whatever you have. Whether it's extra, whether it's not extra, whether you have sold it, whether you have not sold it, whether it's sitting there.
So I give zakat in the month of Ramadan. Do I choose any date, last day?
So usually it's the first. It's up to you. You have to have a date.
So I choose my
So
own date.
that is your personal thing. That's your own thing. So that's, if you don't know what is the first day you became Sahib Nisab, you just choose a date and you stick to that. You don't change anymore. So you choose a date and you stick to that, inshallah. With that being said, inshallah, we'll end off this majlis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand what has been said. If you